Life of Fred, Financial Choices. Chapter 18, Employ or Be Employed. Fred sat at his desk and tried to map out his future. He started with the math. He figured that he had about 700,000 hours left to live. And the note for that is 80 years times 365 days per year times 24 hours per day equals 700,800 hours, which rounds to 700,000 hours. This was just a rough estimate. He didn't have to consider leap year and other details. He didn't want his tombstone to look like this. Here lies Fred Gauss, born, watched TV, shopped, and died. What Fred discovered is that it is very hard to predict ahead 5 years. This is true when you are 6. This is true when you are 12. This is true when you are 20. This is true when you are 40. This is true when you are 70. When you are 20, you don't know whether a great romance is just around the corner. When you are 70, you don't know whether you should be ordering your tombstone yet. One friend of mine was to be married in a couple of weeks. Her mom woke her up early one morning to tell her that her fiancé died in a car accident during the night. It's almost as if we live in a world filled with fog and can only see clearly a couple of feet ahead of us. Despite that, we have to make long-term decisions as to whom to marry, what field to study, what business to begin. It's not fair, but it is reality. We can't lift the fog, but with effort, we can see a little bit further. Here's how you can make the effort. Get to know the person you are thinking of marrying. Choosing the right person can make a big difference in your life for the next 50 years. You don't want to find out after you are married that he or she doesn't want any children and you want 6. The first 2 years of college often expose the student to English, history, a lab science, music, a foreign language, political science, and physical education in fencing, tennis, or jazz dancing. Read books in many different fields. Talk to people about their jobs. Discover what kinds of things excite you. They will probably be different than what excites your friends. Fred sat at his desk thinking about his future. He knew that mathematics excited him, but how that might be expressed in his life is a different question. He is a university professor right now. Someday his love of math might be expressed in making math movies, writing Life of Stan math books, in a profession that uses a lot of math, or in a business he owns that could use his math talents. And the note for that is, for example, actuaries, architects, chemists, computer systems analysts, cryptologists, economists, geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers, meteorologists, operations research analysts, physicists, astronomers, robotics engineers, statisticians. Wait a minute. I, your reader, need to break in here for a moment. 3 chapters ago, you wrote about your own business. 2 chapters ago, the title was Growing Your Business. The previous chapter was Hiring. Aren't you making a tiny assumption that I am going to own a business? I want to hear both sides of the debate. Being employed versus being an employer. But there are 3 sides to this debate. You don't just have choices of getting a job or going into business. 3 sides? You never mentioned 3 sides. But there are 3 sides. If you, my reader, want me to talk about your real alternatives, there are 3 of them. Getting a job, the most popular. Getting welfare, the second most popular. And owning a business, the least popular. Okay, let the debate begin. The first speaker. Getting a job. There are many advantages to having a job. You get a salary. You know what it's going to be. It's a lot more money than being on welfare. It is much more certain than operating a business. Your hours are fixed, and you get to go home at night and forget about what you did during the day. If you own a business, you often will work 12 hours per day and will be thinking about your business all the time. You know when your vacations are coming. You don't have to work that hard unless you are paid on commission. If you make mistakes, your employer has to pay for them. In many jobs, such as at Waddles Donuts, your employer will furnish you with a snappy-looking uniform. You will be covered by workers' compensation insurance in case you fall into the boiling donut grease at Waddles. If you talk with fellow employees of the same sex as you are, there will probably be few rules about what you can say. You will be given a guaranteed break, say 15 minutes every 4 hours. Your take-home salary, which will be about 60% of your gross salary after federal and state income taxes, Social Security, unemployment insurance, etc., is removed, is yours every week. And the note about that is, unless your boss says 2 magic words, you're fired. If you want more salary, all you have to do is beg for it. You might get a raise unless, of course, there are 38 other people ready to take your job at your current salary. If you are working in a field in which you might someday start a business, having a job is a great way to, number 1, find out if you like that kind of business, and number 2, learn the good and bad ways to run that business. The second speaker. Get welfare. You don't need to make eye contact with anyone. No boss to please, no customers to please. You can throw away your alarm clock, no stupid income tax forms to fill out. You can watch television during the daytime. If you want extra money, you don't have to ask for a raise. You do things for other people for cash that doesn't get reported to the government. If some landscaping company tells an owner that they'll do the work for $100, you can offer to do it for $75 since you don't have to deal with all those government deductions. This is, of course, illegal, but people like C.C. Colback only consider whether they will be caught, not whether it breaks a law. Having more children doesn't cost as much when you have a job. To start with, the more kids you have, the more welfare you receive. If you want even more money, one trick that might work is to abandon your kids to the government. Then have your mother, who has biological rights, adopt the kids and get paid for taking care of them. Claim you are really looking hard for work, but magically only find it when the government unemployment benefits are about to run out. There are a million ways to make the system work for you while you don't work. This is supposedly the richest country in the world, and yet 1 out of every 5 households, or 20%, is on food stamps. Many people don't go to their grocery store on the 1st or 2nd of each month to avoid the mobs of people with their carts filled with food paid by the taxpayers. Why work if by doing so you lose your food stamps, your housing assistance, and your free medical? If for every $10 you earn, you lose $5 in welfare, that's effectively a 50% tax on what you earn. The rebuttal to the welfare speaker. Certainly, there is a small number of people who need charity. When the government hands out money to the needy, it is not charity no matter who receives it. One essential part of the definition of charity is that it is voluntary. The only way that government gets its money is by forcibly extracting it from the people in our society who are producers. Try not paying your taxes and you'll learn the meaning of forcible extraction. They can take everything valuable that you own. Only money voluntarily donated to help the poor, whether it be personally or through churches or other associations, is true charity. Second, the federal government cannot legally be engaged in any welfare programs or education programs. The Constitution specifically prohibits the federal government from messing with welfare or education. I bet this is never mentioned in the government schools. Any fifth grader can understand the plain intended language of the Constitution. Here it is. Article 1, Section 8 states the 18 powers that the Congress has. Number 1, lay and collect taxes. Number 2, borrow money. Number 3, regulate commerce. Number 4, make rules for becoming a citizen and for doing bankruptcies. Number 5, coin money and determine weights and measures. Number 6, punish counterfeiting. Number 7, establish post offices. Number 8, establish copyrights and patents for writers and inventors. Number 9, set up law courts below the Supreme Court. Number 10, punish pirates. Number 11, declare war. Number 12, raise an army. Number 13, raise a navy. Number 14, make rules governing the army and navy. Number 15, make rules for calling up a militia. Number 16, make rules for creating a militia. Number 17, set up a less than 10 square mile area for the federal government. Number 18, make any laws to carry out the powers granted by the first 17 powers. Do you see any powers to run welfare or education programs? And then in the 10th Amendment, in the Bill of Rights, specifically states that those 18 parts of Article 1, Section 8 are all that Congress is allowed to do. They can't touch welfare or education. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. The President and all the members of Congress have sworn that they will uphold the Constitution, not just promised. They swore. It is called their oath of office. To swear an oath is not the same as making an extra serious promise. It means to call God as your witness to the truth of what you are saying. This was perhaps best explained in Robert Bolt's A Man for All Seasons. In that play and movie, the hero explains to his daughter, "When a man takes an oath, Meg, he's holding his own self in his own hands, like water, and if he opens his fingers, then he needn't hope to find himself again. In other words, he is damned." And then the third speaker, owning a business. Wow, it's easy to see why being employed or going on welfare are the two most popular choices. Only about 7% of all non-farm workers are self-employed, and that number has been rapidly declining in recent years. Who in blazes wants to put in 12-hour days? Who wants to worry about paying for mistakes that your employees make? Who wants to face the risk of failure that many new businesses experience? Who wants to face the big enemy, government, which puts up 1,000 barriers to owning and operating a business, and then sucks off about 40% of the net income of successful business owners? Who wants to trade the one boss for those who are employed for the hundreds of bosses that every business has? As a business owner, all your customers are your bosses, and they can fire you by not liking what you have to sell. The answer is everyone who wants to retire in 24 years. Owning your own business is the surest way to wealth, unless you are counting on your rich uncle to leave you tons of money or you plan on marrying someone rich. And the note to that is increasingly common nowadays are prenuptial contracts, which state that after marriage, each party keeps as his or her own separate property the things they had before the marriage. You won't be a dime richer by marrying the rich one. Chapter 19. Which business? Fred heard the sound of a big truck pulling up to the math building. That was unusual. The largest vehicle that usually comes to the math building is the vending machine truck, which comes once a week to refill the 9 vending machines on the 3rd floor. Fred headed to the window to look. 4 men got out of the truck and headed up to the second floor, to Helen's office. They were here to put in a new Italian marble fireplace. Almost immediately, the pounding of large sledgehammers began. Their first step was to enlarge the window. Fred didn't want to hear the construction noise or think about how soon Helen would be bankrupt. Helen's new office fireplace, almost like Fred had imagined it. He left Kingy, who didn't seem to be bothered by the noise, and headed down the hallway past the 9 vending machines, 4 on the left and 5 on the right, down 2 flights of stairs, past the fire truck, and toward Main Street. One thought that was running through Fred's mind was what kind of business he might enjoy owning. And joy owning is an important part of choosing a business. If you hate dogs, selecting a pet grooming store would be silly. As Fred walked down Main Street, he passed Pete's Pool Hall. That didn't appeal to him at all. Actually, the note up here about Helen being bankrupt, the note is that would happen in December. Helen would lose everything except the student loans, which can't be discharged in bankruptcy. He passed the Bebop Bakery. The idea of baking cookies and cakes for the next 20 years made his skin crawl. No thanks. He realized that many businesses wouldn't be located at a retail outlet on Main Street. He looked in the phone book and found a long listing of companies that clear away junk. Clean and Clear, disposal of your doodads, Happy Haulers, I Can Make It Clean, Junk Away, kitchen and closet clearing, lift and load, mess no mo, off it goes, pick and clear, quick no clutter, rubbish truckers, stuff our truck, your stuff becomes my stuff, watch it disappear, zoom, boom, more room. One important thing to remember is don't pick a business that has a lot of competition. If all your friends are opening antique stores, don't. In many fields, the competition is way too intense. Your chances of succeeding as a Major League Baseball player, a popular singer, or an astronaut are about the same as finding a donkey that speaks Hebrew. That happened once in history, as far as I know. Avoid the glamorous fields. Your goal, hopefully, is to find a business that thrives, not one that you can boast about at a party. It is okay if you choose something that would be boring to other people, such as operating a landfill or manufacturing parrot cages. Find a niche where few others can compete with your set of skills and talents. Determining what your skills and talents are is the first step. Do you like to hike in the woods? Do you like playing with mice? Do you read books about astronomy? In your circle of friends, are you the one who often thinks of what the group can do? Do you have friends? When you think about time in the kitchen, do you imagine washing dishes or making brie stuffed pain Perdue with cranberry cherry sauce? Do you know how to tie a square knot? All the way through your life, you will discover new things that you like. But most of the main aspects of who you are will start to become evident in your teenage years. Those main aspects of who you are will not point you to a particular business. There will always be a dozen possible businesses that would be a good fit for you. Suppose, for example, you like walking in the woods, like time alone, and like simple cooking. Those things could point to several different directions. A, you could be like John Muir, who was famous for enjoying places like Yosemite. He would sometimes go out walking for a whole day with just a tea bag in his pocket. B, you could be like Lewis and Clark, who explored deep into the wilderness. And C, you could be an escaped convict hiding in the woods. You can take tests that will highlight which are your strengths. vocational tests, and aptitude tests. You can talk with people in your areas of interest. Thinking, praying, daydreaming, these can all help you center down to a thought like, the business of opening a school for morticians calls to me. Your particular choice might be different. Your reader, have to interrupt again. At what point in my life am I supposed to center down, as you call it, to a particular idea? When I'm 6, like Fred, or 16, or 26? I am not talking about a final choice that can't be changed. Most people do not have just a single direction in life, as Mother Teresa did, but a variety of avenues they explore. But your question is, when do I center down on a particular avenue? Right, that's my question. You might only have 600,000 hours left to live. 12 years is about 100,000 hours. When do you center down? The answer is easy. Yesterday. And if that option is not available to you, then today is the next best choice. Tomorrow stinks as an alternative. If the thought of manufacturing collars, and leashes for ferrets is what most appeals to you right now, then this is where you start today. Fred needed a quieter place to think. He jogged back onto campus and headed to the rose garden. He hopped up, rather than sat down, on one of the benches and pulled out paper and a pencil. My skills and talents. Number 1, math. Number 2, teaching. Number 3, I'm 3 feet tall. That might come in handy for working in tight spaces. Number 4, I'm fairly young. Number 5, I love to read. Number 6, I don't have a family. That's good in that I don't have people dependent on me. There are dangerous businesses that I wouldn't consider, such as minefield clearing, if I had a wife and kids. That's bad in that getting married and staying married is highly correlated with economic success. The note for that is Thomas J. Stanley, as reported in his book, The Millionaire Mind, made a survey of 733 millionaires. He asked them to rate 30 success factors and declare which ones best explained their economic success. 49% responded that having a supportive spouse was very important. Number 7, I am well disciplined. Number 8, I get along with people. Number 9, I am always honest. And the note for that is being honest with everyone, being well disciplined, getting along with people. These were the only success factors that the 733 millionaires rated more highly than having a supportive spouse. Number 10, I am healthy. I like jogging. Number 11, I like cats and dogs, but not mice. Fred had read in a book that after looking at one's skills and talents, today is the time to center down, to make a tentative choice to what business to enter. Fred chose, we will find out in the next chapter.